Hello history lovers and welcome back to my channel. The Magna Carta is one of the most infamous and consequential pieces of documentation to have ever existed. Its legacy goes as far as marking the road to individual freedom, parliamentary democracy, and to the supreme law in England, as well as providing inspiration for many important constitutional documents, such as the 1791 United States Bill of Rights, the United Nations Universal Declaration of Human Rights of 1948, and many more, all thanks to a meeting that occurred 800 years ago at Runnymede. However, at the time, the Magna Carta had very little impact. It wouldn't be until the reign of King Henry III, and after several revisions, that the Magna Carta would begin to take on its symbolic status. But before we dive on in, let's backtrack. What's the Magna Carta and why was it needed? In 1215, England was in political turmoil and on the brink of civil war. King John had been on the throne for 16 years, and thanks to a disagreement with the church and the introduction of higher taxes to fund an ongoing war in France, he was incredibly unpopular. To demonstrate how unpopular John was, there was a plot against him 3 years earlier in 1212, and we haven't had a King John since, as no one wants to be tarnished with that. A political marriage went disastrously wrong for John, resulting in him losing his continental lands and earning him the nickname Lackland, and his attempt to keep the lands by force led to a humiliating defeat and the new nickname of Soft Sword. The Battle of Bouvines in 1214 led to a devastating defeat for John, a part of the story that often gets left out as we don't like talking about battles that we lost, and John returned to England with his tail between his legs. However, John had returned home to a country that was in civil war. The barons of England were now in open revolt, having financed John's failed war effort. There was no obvious contender to the throne, so they created an alternative, a programme for reform, a Charter of Liberties. Disgruntled barons and members of the clergy banded together against the king, and at the start of 1215, the barons had seized control of London, forcing John to negotiate. John and the barons met, and he listened to their demands. Anticipating that the king was only humouring them to keep his crown, the barons demanded that King John agree to a document as protection against his heinous behaviour. By the 15th of June, King John would agree to their demands and seal the proposed Great Charter of Liberty, also known as the Magna Carta, which is Latin for Great Charter. This document would be sealed at Runnymede. From then on, no English king could act in a tyrannical manner to erode the rights of free men or dominate the church, although King Henry VIII gave it a bloody good go. During the Tudor and Stuart reigns, religious intolerance and persecution was rife. By the early 1600s, Puritans, no longer tolerated by the church and crown, set off to seek a new life of religious tolerance in the New World of America. In 1620, upon the Mayflower, the Pilgrim Fathers set sail from Plymouth, taking with them a copy of the Magna Carta. The principles of the Charter, granting freedom under the law, went on to form the basis of the Constitution of the United States and later the Bill of Rights, of which Thomas Jefferson said, "All men are created equal in life, liberty, and in the pursuit of happiness." The Great Charter of Freedom concludes with these words: "Given by our hand in the meadow which is called Runnymede between Windsor and Staines, on the 15th day of June, in the 17th year of our reign." Now I just want to say, I said 16 years earlier. If I got my facts right, he became king in 1199, and if we're in 1215, that is 16 years later, so I'm not really too sure if I'm wrong or if the document's wrong or what I've missed there. But just in case you also pick up on that, I am aware, I just don't know which one's right. I'm assuming the document. As mentioned earlier, the Magna Carta, or the Great Charter, had very little legal impact, as John signed the document and then immediately tried to go back on it by requesting for it to be repealed by the Pope, who, declared that the document was null and void of all validity forever. It was only later that the Great Charter began to have real consequences. King John's successor and son, King Henry III, released 3 revised versions of the Magna Carta during his reign, and over the years it began to take on its symbolic status. The barons were annoyed that John had got the Pope to annul the document, so, driven by revenge, they offered the throne to Louis, son of the King of France, and another civil war ensued. John died in 1216, and his 9-year-old son succeeded to the throne as King Henry III. However, the Magna Carta didn't die with John. Henry's council resurrected the document. Henry was on the throne, but the barons had offered it to Louis, and the two claimants wrestled for the crown. Henry grew support after a few victories against Louis, and by September 1217, Louis's support had dwindled and was forced to sign a peace treaty on Magna Carta Island, and he withdrew to France. The defeat of Louis was used as an opportunity to reissue the Magna Carta with modifications, including a supplementary charter dealing with forest law. The Magna Carta was revolutionary at the time, as it held the king accountable to the rule of law, just like his subjects. Which is probably why John wanted to get rid of it as soon as he sealed it. Why was the document signed at Runnymede? Well, to be honest, no one is really sure why Runnymede was chosen as the location for the sealing of such a significant document, but it is near Windsor Castle, which, as it still is today, was a royal residence at the time, and, during the reign of King Henry I, it was used for the meetings of the King's councils. We know it was sealed at Runnymede because it states in the charter at Runnymede inter Windleserum et Staines, which translates from Latin to Runnymede between Windsor and Staines. But this field upon which the memorial site sits is a Thames floodplain. So again, why this exact location is chosen? Runnymede is also close to Staines, which is where King John's barons were residing during the negotiations while John was at Windsor Castle. So, it could be that Runnymede was politically neutral and close to both of their locations. It also has restricted access from the east and west, thus rendering surprise attack difficult, and the marshland would be unsuitable for fighting. We know that the Magna Carta was sealed at Runnymede, but it is still unclear where exactly it took place. There is much to be said in favour of it being on the island, the meadow, or even under the infamous 2,500-year-old Ankerwick yew tree, which Henry VIII apparently courted Anne Boleyn under and eventually proposed to her under this tree. But again, there's no real evidence to support this. After the third and final amendment in 1225 by King Henry III, the Magna Carta was confirmed in 1297 by King Edward I and placed on the first of Great Roll of English Statute, thus becoming the first constitutional document in the world. The Runnymede is still used today as a site of significant commemoration. At this site you can find the location of the Magna Carta Memorial, built in 1957, the JFK Memorial, built in 1965, and has a beautiful view from the top as well, might I just add. I mean, it was a lot of steps to climb, but the view was great.
Life's a climb, but the view's great.
There is also the Commonwealth Air Force Memorial and the Fairhaven Memorial Lodges. The memorial on the land on which it stands is vested in the Magna Carta Trust. The memorial was dedicated on the 28th of July 1957 in ceremonies attended by over 5,000 people. In the centre of the memorial is a pillar of English granite inscribed, "To commemorate Magna Carta, symbol of freedom under law." This was a quick video, I know, but I just wanted to highlight some of the history that can be found in this field, that is mostly used by dog walkers these days. And if you are planning on going, listen to me now when I say take your wellies, because the mud on that field practically destroyed my trainers. Anyway, if you like this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and share this video with a friend. But until the next one, have a wonderful day.